Could I get you to autograph my turkey style?
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
God bless you.
God bless you.
I remember distinctly the first day that I walked in to his store, Berge Drug Store, it's a landmark in Elizabethton. He's playing a trumpet, and just I didn't even see. There's mirrors all around the building. I've never noticed it. He sits in the back corner. That's his business staff. That's his little hole. And as soon as I walk through that door, I hear just I don't hear a mouth call, I don't hear a pot call, I hear a hen, just that squawk. And right then, that second, it changed my life.
I apologize to you folks. Lord's blessed me with Parkinson's disease, so this hand jumps around. So sometimes I can call, and sometimes I have to just cluck. I'm Barry Proffitt. I just hunt turkeys. Since I killed my first two, Harold Knight asked me, he said, "When'd you kill your first?" And I said, "I think 79. I wouldn't swear to it. I killed my first," and he said, in 56. He said, "The season opened in 57. I said, "I heard that." So, anyway, I'm just old turkey hunter. I don't care what a call sounds like. If a turkey likes it, that's all I'm looking for. If somebody's been using something that you know what to use, don't use it when you go in that area. I'm on a lease in Southwest Virginia in Wise County. There's about 9,000 acres of reclaimed strip mines, and there's a whole lot of people in there that are bear hunters. I'm only turkey hunter. That's the way I got in, I guess. And one of my buddies, my contact, he's a coon hunter. He don't want nothing to do with nothing except a coon. So he called me. He says, "You gonna hunt?" I said, "Yeah, I'm waiting the last 2 weeks so we can hunt all day." He said, "I hate to tell you now, but," said, "everybody's been out of work, and there's 3 old boys hunting on that ridge you like to hunt. Comes off the mountain." He says, "They'll admit to 3 apiece. They said there's one they can't kill, and they's gonna leave it for the old man." I said, "Well, I'm going hunting." He's over. It's straight off on both sides of this ridge. It's Southwest Virginia is a lot steeper than we got in downtown Elizabeth.
It is. He has a hard time because his Parkinson's holding him.
There you go. Thank you, sir. Anyway, it's steep. So I drive to the top and hunt down the mountain. I killed one down there, about a 20-pounder, and I looked at my GPS and it says 0.65 miles to the truck upstairs, up the hill. And I thought, I ain't gonna make it, but I did. And anyway, the guy said to give the turkey to the old man. So the old man went over there and went about, there's a Jeep, like a Jeep trail. It's not, I couldn't take my little Tacoma down there. You could take a 4-wheeler or something like that and go down it. If there's a great huge pipeline, it's about that much diameter. It's a gas line goes down that ridge. So I walked down there about far from here to the back of the room here, and it was a dry, sunny day. and the leaves was dry, and I was walking in them, and it went, yeah, just walking through the leaves, and all of a sudden, off down in the yard, ow! I said, oh, I'm getting cold chills on me now. And I done said, whatever I use, it's not gonna be a pot call, a mouth call, or a box call. Most hunters today use box calls, not so many box, but they use pot calls and mouth calls. And them old boys had wore them out. So I said, the thing I'm gonna use is my trumpet. But just in case, I always carry a mouth call in my pocket. That rascal gobbled one time, and I popped. That's all I done. And he didn't say a word. He didn't say nothing else. And so I pulled this trumpet right here out, and I went, cack, 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 and he went, ow! But he was nearly to the bottom of the mountain. He done gone untelling how far down that mountain. Of course, he wasn't loud, but he double gobbled. And I looked around for a tree, and there wasn't no trees. I mean, there's little saplings and stuff. And I looked about as far as from here to cross over there, and there's a big old boulder. I got up against that boulder and got my gun up, looking right down it, and had the safety off. I said, you'll periscope me. And I sat right there with that gun a minute. I ain't said a word, and he ain't either. For a few minutes, I'm looking right there, and then I looked right there, and then right there he stood. Oh, boy, and I went, he stretched up like that, and I went, had that mouth call, pop, and he went, I won't forget that turkey. That's the kind you don't forget. The Lord blesses you. If one of them, you had a good blessing. That's to keep us humble. But anyway, I thought about this little talk, and I thought the title of it would be, why fool with a mouth call, a wing bone or a trumpet? I don't know I know the difference in the sound and the difference in how the animals react to it. And I read this thing in McElhaney's book. My wife used to collect antique dolls, so all over the country we'd go turkey hunting. Here she'd go in them antique shops. And especially like New York, you couldn't hunt them. Well, after dinner, you couldn't hunt them in New York. So we'd go antique. And I found some books. I found one, second edition it's a 1914 edition of McElhaney. And Charles Jordan wrote it. He was killed in 1909 by a poacher. And so McElhaney, he's the one that owns the Tabasco companies. We don't know who owns it now. That was 1914 he published Charles Jordan's work. Jordan says on page 184, he said, there is one objection to the box, slate, or similar calls. They make quite a noise nearby, but cannot be heard any distance. The instrument I make can be heard a half or 3/4 of a mile away. Now I know it's got all the old guys, that meant something because that's the way they hunted. That's the way Dwayne Bland hunted. When we fall hunting, he'd find a sign, or I'd trade hunts with him. He'd come up and hunt with me in South Dakota, and I'd hunt with him in Oklahoma. And they'd sit all day. They'd go, he said, you've got your sandwich, you've got your water bottle, we're staying all day. But he called, he wouldn't call but maybe every 30 minutes. But anyway, we know that this call reaches out there, and all of a sudden for no reason at all, here stands three or four big gobblers. They had to know they was there, so they've heard it, but you don't know how far or how long. But in my opinion, it's nothing but opinion. Maybe someday there'll be a nice young man or woman do their thesis or their, what do they call it, for PhD. Anyway, they'll find that there's something else. I don't know what it is. I wonder, and that's why I said, why fool with a wing bone or a trumpet? If you like eating turkeys, that's why you get one. I'll say it happens more. There's more than what meets the eye, in my opinion. I don't know why, but in about 92, I went to local Mahoney's, and there was a basket that had a turkey calls, and I bought one of these Roger Latham things, copy of turkey, made out of some pumpkin wood. You know, I don't know what it is, but anyway, that was my first trumpet. And I read in that book, in 1983, Wayne Bailey published a book, Hunting the 50 Years. And he talked about, I'm gonna put this right here. So anyway, I read his book and he talked about wing bones. I called him up. He lived over north of Greensboro, which is about 5 hours from me. And I said, I talked to him about it. I said, I'd like to come and visit you if it'd be all right. Bring up one of my hunting buddies with me, Steve May. So, well, come on Saturday. We got over about 10 o'clock and I saw this old man coming up the street. He was taking a stride. His foot was hitting the ground about from here every time we see that chair. He was big, tall, and had real long legs. I said, boy, he could kill a man in the woods. And so he had us in the house, and we talked a while, and he brought out his wing bones. Our regional director used to tell, said, looked like Wayne made them things with a hatchet, that they do the work. And he pulled out his box called the Wayne Bailey Commemorative. And he opened it up and looked and showed us. He had it stuffed full of tissue paper, like toilet tissue. When you know something that's all on it, it's going to screech, but it just barely made sounds. And that's what he did. He had made his own snuff cans. And it was, you could tell it was a dental or a fruit and snuff can. The bottom of it had a hole punch. You could see where he'd used a hole punch. And that's all the holes there was, like your little finger coming out the bottom. That's why he talks. He called those. And I asked him about trumpet. He ever used them? He said, no. The best turkey hunter I ever knew in my life, and the one that's called the best on a trumpet, is Wayne Bland from Oklahoma. You know him? I said, no, I don't know the man, but I'd like to. So I wrote him a letter, asked him about coming and visiting. He wouldn't, or hunting out there, getting to hunt him. I said, he wouldn't, to my knowledge, he never let anybody tape him. He wasn't in no movies. He was in one homemade movie. They moved one video I've got of him. All he did was cluck on that wing bone. Pop, 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 pop. And so it ended up, I hunted 3 years with him in the spring in Texas, and then hunted 9 years with him. And I I told him, he said, well, you want to hear my trumpet? I said, let me hear what you're doing. Well, I didn't just, I called to him. He said, well, now them's real good Jake Yelps. That's what you can do in the spring. My face was as red as a big ripe tomato. And I thought, what are you doing? And he says, too loud, too slow. And so he said, I guess you've always, this has been, I've hunting with him for a year. He said, guess you thought I'm awful standoffish. I said, where I come from in the mountains, we're awful standoffish too. I said, we find out what you do or won't do, we won't take you to family. We find out if you, what you like. But anyway, look at my notes. I get talking and I forget where I am. So I got to looking where I could fall hunt. And there wasn't no, we didn't have no fall seasons. Virginia had a fall season. So, and West Virginia had a fall season, and theirs was like 2 weeks long. And so I looked, and there's all kind of public land up there. Well, I called the game warden in that county, Monroe County, and we decided to go up there. And I bought 2 trumpets from a man down in Memphis. And then I had one I bought from Hunter Turpin when the Turkey Federation had our convention. It was in Memphis that year. The highlight of the thing was I sitting that close to Bill Monroe. So that pulled my chain. But anyway, I bought from Hunter Turpin, I bought 3 boxes and one trumpet off of him. And I had that one. So we went to, I called that game warden. He said, yeah, y'all come on up and I'll take you around and show you around a place you can go over that's got some turkeys. And he took us to this big place called Moncove State Park. It's got a lake on it. And we rode around all over the place. And then he turned us loose. We camp over there, take a tent. Camp. This first was like 94, as near as I could tell, not 95. But anyway, we got out that evening before the season opened. Steve went on this ridge behind the campground, and I pulled out and went back on the highway a ways, where there was on this side of the road there was a orange gate, and there's a road went up through there. I thought, boy, there'll be somebody in there tomorrow morning. So I parked and I went across the highway and went up this ridge. There wasn't a mark where nobody had been through there. I went up there and sat down. I took that trumpet and I went, come, 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 come. There was a hen about run over me, come running up that ridge, and I thought, boy, what about this? Well, in second thought, bow season had been on a long time, and you could tell they wore that road out over there. People had where they parked and everything. I said they probably scared them turkeys over on this other ridge. So the next morning I got up, I took that, went up that other ridge. I parked real early. I got up there and got sat down and let the sweat die down a little bit, and I heard a car come. It parked. I parked over on the other side, over there next to where like I'd gone up that road. They got up, they were talking and carrying on. They finally opened the gate. They owned some land out there too. So they went out through that way, and I went up there and I sat there a while, and I was calling with a Paul Butsky, 4-ring cutter at that time, and had box calls, had slates. Roger hadn't made no gobber slates yet. But what I did was hunt them. I changed before long I changed to a true double. And anyway, I gave them everything I had. It got daylight, nothing wasn't there. I took that trumpet out and I went, conk, 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 conk. Oh, down in that holler. I thought, that's turkeys down. When I got turned around like this, I was shooting that old 32-inch Browning then. 3-inch. It weighed so much. I don't see how a man carried that thing. It must have weighed 10 pounds. But anyway, all of a sudden something run right up the ridge and went right beside me, and I couldn't turn my head. And I looked back down there, and there's 3 more. And the lead dirt bird come up through there, and I shot him, and he went head over tail, plumb to the bottom of that ridge. I had to go way off down in there and get that rascal. But I was hooked on. That's the last year that I hunted deer. I didn't hunt deer or turkeys. I got deer, I wouldn't hunt nothing but turkeys. But anyway, there's more to the gobber talking. Now, before my hand starts shaking, I'm gonna run the call a little bit. I'm gonna just a little bit of hen yelp. You'll see this hand starts. What happens is you're holding it in this hand. Your hand starts jerking and it pulls it away from your mouth for a little bit. So anyway, I'll tell you, I'm gonna show you what I do. Here's what. I tell you what Dwayne did. I said, he wouldn't tell me. He finally took me under wing and told me. I said, what do you do when you strike a turkey? Or early in the morning, what do you do? The first thing. I cluck a couple of times loud, 3 or 4 yelps, and went right into some cutting. And old dogs always got something to learn if you listen and look. Back in 2003, I kept this in my journal. 2003, Lamar called me. Lamar's a good Christian brother, Lamar Williams. He makes turkey calls, and amongst other things. So anyway, he called me, he said, you know a fellow named Zach Farmer? I said, well, I've had one of his calls on order since the 90s. I said, why? He said, I was hunting in that country, in the low country, and said they put me on, the last day I hadn't killed when they put me on the house turkey. When everybody called to him and had a whole bunch of hens with him. And says, I was up there and I used whatever I called with him, everything, and the turkey wouldn't do nothing but gobble. He wouldn't leave them hens. And he said the guy that hauled me out there, he slipped up there behind me and whispered to me, do you want me to call with this exact call 2 or 3 times and see what he'll do? I said, yeah. So he said he called to him and that turkey left gobbled 2 or 3 times, left the hens, and Lamar shot him. I said, that started me right there. So that, I got hold of Zach. He had 4 callers. He's getting ready to send it out. One of them was mine, and I got to pick out the call on it. And I took it home, and that was Saturday. Well, on Sunday after the church, I went out to the farm, and I took my tape recorder. I wanted to see what it sounded like in the woods. So I yelped about 4 or 5 times, right up on that ridge. You hear she was coming. And I grabbed my stuff and run back towards the truck as much as a man can at my age. Anyway, got back in the truck, and I was astonished. I'd not heard that before. I'd run wing bones, I'd run everything, but I thought, well, that's just happenstance. That's probably not the way it happens all the time. But there's something to it. I don't know what it is, but I learned one thing from Zach, from his little booklet he wrote. On the side of a true double mouth call, it'll say, if you want to cluck, say put. If you want to help, you say yep. So on Zach's book, it says, if you want to cluck, say tuck, as in T-U-C-K. He said, if you want to yelp, you say keek, as K-E-E-K, or K-E-L-K, kelp. If you wanted a fast cadence, it'd be keek. So I'm gonna do keek. Kelk. That's important stuff. You get to making false calls. You remember tuck, keek, and kelp. Got some awful good callers sitting right in here. It don't make any difference what it sounds like. If it sounds good to that turkey and he's willing to come into your skillet, that's a real turkey. It don't make no difference. You can take Mark Prudhomme and Patrick Gamble, the 2 best I ever heard. You look at them, it's one of them head turners. And I'm sure that helps, but sometimes we strive too hard, but it lets us practice. And that's important, is practicing. I hunted New York, and the fall season opened 1st October. I had limit 2 birds. Spring, I'd go up there over Memorial Day. It was 2 birds in the spring. I had this guy line me up to hunt turkeys. I went to this one dairyman and he let me hunt. And on this side, there was a ridge that went up yonder, and it was a hayfield. It was, you know, the grass is as green as you can imagine in that country. It's amazing. On the other side, it was broke up. That's where most of the people hunted. So I parked at the bottom. He wouldn't let you go up in there with the vehicle. I don't blame him. So I parked down there and I walked all the way to the top. But I'll be sitting there when it breaks daylight, first light. So I called with everything I had, nothing. I said, anybody killed anything over here? Well, there's been a lot hunting, they say, but I've not heard many shots. What the wife said. Well, I started calling with the sack call. And I thought I heard a turkey. And I run another series, and way down there at the bottom where I parked my truck, I heard a ow. Well, I did it again. Here come 3 red-headed turkeys. And I looked at them and I thought, Jakes. Well, I let them come on up there and I got to looking. They wasn't 15 yards, and I got to looking. There's one of them had a set of spurs that long. And he had a beard, he had beard rot. His beard wasn't but about that long, and it was that big around. Well, I got my gun up, and he moved. I went, pop. They took off a trot, and they went all the way around this ridge in that field. I said, well, you done told me what you like to hear. So I called to him some with the sack call. Ow! Here they come back. I shot that one with them big spurs on him. But he was that tall, much taller with his back, walking than them other 2 Jakes. But he was a dominant bird with a big set of spurs, but he had that beard rot. But it worked. My first spring bird with a trumpet was still using that Blackwood collar. This was 96 in Lovett Williams's hunting camp in the bottom of Okeechobee Lake. I killed 2 in 95. I got there, I didn't know nothing about oscillos. They tell you, oh, you can't talk to them things. You just a little bit of talking, just a little bit of clucks, a few little yelps. They don't touch it because they scared of calling. Well, the first day it was done passed by. Lovett, he dumped me off in water. It was ankle deep. There wasn't no turkeys there. I said, where's the way, Lovett? I was the first one he dropped off. He said, they're all over the place here. You go hear some alligators. I said, I ain't alligator hunting. I'll let them alone if they let me alone. So I didn't get no turkey. And there's one boy had a guide. He was a lawyer from Florence, South Carolina. He killed the turkey right off before dinner time. He was packed up and heading back to the house. I looked at that old boy's guide. I said, you know where there's any turkeys? Well, of course I do. I live right over here. See that? You all remember passing that trailer and coming out? I said, yeah, that's where I live. And I said, well, tomorrow morning, I want you to take me the next 2 days. It was 2.5 day hunt. First day I was going out with him. It got to be 10:30, and he had a little 2-hole slate, but HS strut. He'd go, come. That's all he'd do. And I thought, well, if that turkey, if he's standing right here close, he might hear that because all that wind starts blowing at 8 o'clock. Blows in palmettos. And I looked around and I said, I'm gonna do my own calling now. I bought me a first boat paddle from Billy White. I started sousing on that thing, son, I made the ground shake. I didn't see nothing didn't happen. We said you had to quit at 1. I sat there about 11 o'clock, and I looked way over yonder in the corner from that other field, and there's something where to go. And I said, I know what that is. He won't come. Pow, 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 pow. Here he come. He looked like he had it dust. He was kicking up dust. And he come about halfway across that field, and then he started doing this. And the guy said, I said, what's the matter with that turkey? He said, there's a body of water. It's a drainage canal right there. He says he won't come past that. And I went, pow, pow, pow. And he went, that was my first Osceola. And I did the same thing the next day, killed another turkey. Well, the next year, I didn't know it, but it was supposed to rain. I took my rain suit. I carry everywhere around in that country. If it looks a little bit like rain, and the turkey started gobbling across this fence. You couldn't go over there. Somebody else had it. Oh, he gobbled, but he had a whole slew of hens. Then it started raining. I put that rain suit on, didn't have nothing no more than this under it. You talking about cold. That rain is cold as it could be. And I was shaking. And then the hens, all everybody flew down. Gobbler flew down and followed them. And away they went. They went down, I could see half a mile down this fence row. They kept it open, kept them cattle in there. And I kept looking down through there, and it was pouring the rain. I kept looking, and I saw something. I said, that's them little black shoats. They call them hogs down there. They're little pigs. I was about, looked like a whole drove of them. And I took that, I said, well, what have I got to lose? I took that trumpet and I went, yow, 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 yow. And all of a sudden, one of them did this. And I didn't do nothing else. Here come them hens are running. And that gobbler, I shot him and he flew fell into a big mud hole, and he beat that thing dry. So, but he didn't take no pretty picture. But anyway, John McDaniel's guy, he wrote a real good spring turkey hunting book and a fall turkey hunting book. And we were pretty good friends. I started stopping on the way up to New York or something and visited. He lived in Lexington. He taught at Washington and Lee in anthropology. So he said one time, and we was talking, he said, I'd like to go with you someplace where you go hunting in the spring. And I told him, he said, where would you like? I said, well, a place you can go and I know you'll get a turkey, it'd be Mexico. Mexico. I said, yeah. He'd be killing the ghouls turkey. So we went down there and he killed his the first day and I killed mine. And so he really liked trumpets. He had a whole big collection of them. So we went up, he said, let's run some calls. I said, okay. We went. They had a big old cabin back there you slept in at night. And had kitchen and everything. So we went up about 200 yards up above that cabin, up the ridge. We called all we wanted to, and then we put our stuff back in the pockets. We got down there almost to that cabin, and I heard it turned his head and my head. Both of us looked just like this. But it was behind that cabin. And it went count. And I thought, what? I said, there's a turkey right there behind that cabin. He said, that hen? I said, I don't see, I've not heard no gobbling. I said, me neither. What do you think? Now he did it again. And then just a few minutes, here come Hector the cook, walked around the northern corner of that thing, that big cabin. He had him one of Lovett Williams's hermit wing bones. Now, Lovett would put a throat in his wing bones. Some of them, he'd take a piece of this model airplane gasoline tube and he'd put about an inch throat in it. It gave it, I guess it gave it more turnover, I don't know. But anyway, I said, Hector, boy, that sounded good. His face got red as it could be. He couldn't speak English. And I couldn't speak Mexican, so. But anyway, I said, do that, do what you're doing. Do what you did over there. And he took that wing bone and he called, he sounded just like Mark calling right there, right close. I mean, what I'm trying to say, you know what I'm trying to say is, when you're up close, just because that you're calling with it, you don't think it sounds just exactly like a hen, don't mean that when you're 200 yards away, that it don't sound just like a hen. It turned both of our heads. So, it's why mess with a foolproof? Why mess with a wing bone or a trumpet? If you like eating turkey, it gives you another, something else to do to get that turkey in. So, I had this guy, he was a wrestling coach in New York State. I'd pay him a fee to hunt semi-guided. He'd say, you can go to Mr. Smith's farm and hunt. You know where they're supposed to park up there now. Park right out in front of that old Pontiac he's got back in there. I said, okay. And he told me, call me back. The next he called that evening, he said, Stan Smith called and said his wife's been seeing 2 big longbeards at her bird feeder. Now the bird feeder was from here to the end of the room, right behind the back door. So he didn't have but 25 acres. So we went up on that ridge the next morning. One bird gobbled, and there was an owl over here started owling him, and another owl started running over here. 2 different properties. They started really owl hooting. The old gobbler gobbled 2 or 3 times. You could hear him calling to him. And he called a while, and then he shut up. And so I took that trumpet and I went, he double, triple gobbled. A few minutes, I thought, you'll take a feeling on that turkey. I said, you'll circle me, because the tree they was big maples, huge maples. I mean, 3 feet of this, that big. I sat down right there where I've been calling. I was stupid. And I looked back here behind, and there was another big tree. I looked back there and I didn't say nothing else. About 5 or 10 minutes, I heard something go, and then here he comes. He's right around that tree, looking. Boom! Oh my goodness. We'll go to the skillet. But anyway, I'm into my notes. Anybody got questions? We got 15 more minutes. Thank you men for coming, ladies for coming. But there's more to a trumpet and a wing bone. The effect they've got on the animal than just distance. I don't know what it is. Maybe one of y'all figure it out one of these days. It'll be a turkey hunter who figure it out. It won't be. It'll be somebody that, with turkeys.
Mr. Proffitt, what's the biggest piece of advice for men and women? The biggest lesson you learned that you want to pass on to the future generations for the turkey woods? Biggest lesson for the turkey woods for the future generations?
Well, we're in trouble on our turkeys. We're hurting. I told Matthew, my baby boy, he's about yay tall. Last spring, I called the hen up. The turkeys, the gobblers never said a word. Up stepped the big strutter, and there stepped the subordinate bird, and he was as big as him. He's 11.5-inch beard. I said, do not shoot the strutter. So that's what the biologists are saying now. The hen picks the gobbler. You shoot that gobbler, these bunch of hens don't get bred. Now, I don't know. I talked to our turkey man in Tennessee. I said, that's kind of hard to believe. I said, I've seen too many jakes of fallen hens. Yeah, but you never have. You seen any bred them? I said, no. But that's what they've come up with. So that's one thing, but there's something working on our turkeys. And I used to go to Kansas and kill 2 in the spring and 4 in the fall. Now it's on a draw, and you can kill 1 turkey, 1 person year round. If you draw a tag, if they're in that bad of shape, and notice less turkeys in Nebraska now, less turkeys in South Dakota in the prairie units. South Carolina's down. Last night I killed one last year, first in about 3 years in South Carolina. And I killed one for that at 4:07 in the evening. I knew he was there, but he was busy. But he come back to check on that other girl. But they said, yes, sir.
In your book, you mentioned bonk, gobbler.
My new hearing aids didn't come in yet.
Okay, in your book, you mentioned the bonk, B-O-N-K, but the gobbler. Can you demonstrate that?
I was afraid somebody, I'll be at my table out there. I've got the bone, and I had, I'll show you what it sounds. Bonk. It's a gobbler cluck, but that old man, let's see, what is his name? Leon Johanning. He wrote the book and published in '62. He said it sounds like half cluck and half yelp. Looks like sounds like a cluck with too much yelp in it. I can hear Dwayne say, no, no, no. He said, you've got too much yelp in that cluck for, but that's why I found making this tuck till you see it tuck. Or the wind estimate makes it more, but it works. Matthew's first turkey, the turkey cluck, bonk, that was in October. And I started yelping back at him, and I gobbled some with my mouth. And too long, it's cover runner, and he missed the first shot, and I said, shoot again, Matthew. He rolled him at 44 yards, 44 steps. But I said, you cannot turkey hunt with your grandpa until you learn to handle a shotgun like a man. I said, just sitting with a scope on a thing and a lead sled, I said, you ain't done nothing, I'm sorry. I said, you're gonna learn the old way. Go hunting with a shotgun or a turkey call and come back with a turkey. So, but anyway, I'll show you, but I've got to go back to the room, take some of these calls and get them. I've got two. I've got one. Wingbone Crier's the one that told me about that. He said Gene Denton was a good friend. He died recently in his mid-90s. And he gave me a wingbone that Wingbone Crier had made for him. And it's a two bone, it's like it's made from a big jake because the head of the mouthpiece looks like a half moon. But it works. Nothing works all the time. If it did, we'd quit. Take up golf or something. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
I'd like to say something about you. I live in Elizabeth, and the start of my turkey hunting career was about 1996. And you could not catch Larry Proffitt at his store or his restaurant. I wanted to talk to him so bad. And you couldn't catch him. And 20-some years later, in the same town, all over the town, delivering the mail, I ran back into it. And I was just giving him fish just to get his time, giving him walleye. And the first time I walked into his store, he was playing a trumpet, and it changed my life. I mean, it absolutely just stopped me dead. And that was a year and a half ago. And now every single chance I get to listen to him, to anything from him, is valuable. And I appreciate it. And I would appreciate it a lot more in 1996.
Oh, Wingbone Crier said,
I appreciate it.
my friends, they won't tell anybody anything. When you think about it, before the days of Google, before the days of computers, what you used was 45 RPM records. That's all there was. And a few of them. And nobody didn't want to tell nobody else. They didn't want to share it. But Wingbone said, I wasn't going to take it to my grave and not share what I know, what little there is. That's the way I feel. What little bit I know, I've learned from the woods. But they something on them our instruments. And I wish I knew what it was. Well, amen. Time to have the. Thank you.